James Ham of the Insiders, brought to you by Jiffy Lube, which of course you can catch here on ESPN 1320, 10 to 12 every day, is with us. We want to get to our man Sam first before we dive into some of these Kings conversations. 916-909-1320. Sam, what's happening, my brother?
Hey, well, at least I'm not out at the gambling casino today, so you can probably hear me better.
Well, that's all right.
Good.
That's all right.
Yeah, enjoy yourself over there, man. We hear you just
Oh, I always do. Hey, listen, I've been not a one-trick pony, so I have two sports stakes. The first one is that Seattle has the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, and I agree that they're really not going anywhere. I think the 49ers will take them out. So that's the first one.
I sure hope so.
Well, I do too. The second one is that the answer to Harrison Barnes is sitting on the Kings bench. I focused solely on him the other night. He created open space for himself. He was around all the rebounds. He did make a couple free shots, and his defense was okay, and that's Sasha. If you go to the game tonight and they put him in, watch him and watch how open he gets, and then make a decision. But he played very well, I thought, the other night.
Okay. Sam, we appreciate you.
There's a couple things there. Number one, I like Gino's story. I tend to agree with what Sam said, but Gino did throw for like 370 yesterday.
I don't think Gino's overrated. I think he's properly rated. Yeah, I don't think anyone thinks it's Patrick Mahomes and Geno Smith. Like, I don't think anyone thinks that.
He put up some numbers last night. I think 370, three touchdowns.
He's a good quarterback. Like, he's not everyone is Patrick Mahomes or what you guys think Joe Burrow is or what some people think Josh Allen is. Like, that's not.
The streets were asking for him to be benched in Seattle. I thought that was a little excessive.
Silly.
That was a little excessive.
He may have replaced the most overrated quarterback in the history.
Well, that is really harsh. And I'm not even a fan. That is just uncalled for, actually.
Russell Wilson.
Look at you coming to Russell Wilson.
He wasn't overrated.
Look at KC.
He was lucky.
Let's ride.
He was lucky. I wouldn't call him overrated. He was a quarterback.
I do show some love. Rob Dubb and Drew Down. The Cowboys were the latest team to whoop the Giants' ass yesterday. They did what they were supposed to do. Dak had a 4-touchdown game.
One thing's for sure, and two things for sure. Cowboys gonna beat a bad team.
Yeah, they will.
They ain't gonna do nothing else, but they're gonna beat a bad team.
They might not.
That's definitely what they're gonna do.
Better than losing to a bad team.
No, that's always better. So they're gonna beat a bad team. But I mean, that's gotta suck. You go out here, you beat up all these little teams that nobody really cares about or ain't that good, and nobody's ever gonna take you seriously.
Well, you got Carolina, you got the Commander football team, and you got Seattle. Ooh, man, listen to this stretch: Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, and Detroit.
The end of the season. That's how they end the season.
You got the football team at the end.
I believe the Cowboys are going to be the first wild card team, but that little stretch right there is pretty tough.
Yeah, that's tough. That's brutal.
That's tough. Real quick before, because we got James here, all things Kings. I thought the NBA was so popping over the weekend. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's talk hoop.
Let's go first of all down 80 and what happened over the weekend over there. Because there were some things that involved the Warriors.
The shot block. I love Chris Paul. That's foul.
That was
foul.
Out of pocket.
Yeah,
I saw it when it happened. I said,
foul.
"Yo, you can't do that." And they called a foul on Mike Conley.
Yeah, that was foul.
That was craziness. So there was that. But then on Saturday, I don't know what was going on with the Warriors, with Draymond, with the fans, with the head coach after the game, because it was completely foreign to them that there was an altercation and that the refs go back to see how the altercation started.
Well, we know how it starts every time. Like, why do they even have to go back? It's like, oh, we see who's in it. Okay. We know one guy's getting ejected.
I
recognize the post throw out. I recognize that.
Oh, yeah.
I think I
crazy
saw that in
antics.
person.
Those crazy antics. Like he was. So I was watching that game because it was a good game. Warriors Cavs on a Saturday night. Georgia was already beating the hell out of Ole Miss. I was like, all right, man, I'm gonna check this out. It's a good game. And I got in when Draymond had got the first technical. I was like, damn, already it's the second quarter. He spent the better part of the next quarter and a half doing everything he could. I'm not gonna say to get thrown out, but to just say, like, you're not gonna throw me out. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. He's cursing at Jared Allen. He's cursing at the rest. He's cursing at Donovan before that. Then he does a little a little push in the back, and Donovan responds to it. And I didn't understand Steve Kerr after, for those that don't know, Donovan retaliated by giving a hard foul back to Draymond, like literally after it happened. He runs down the court and like kind of bumps him, shoulder bumps him, starts a little altercation or whatever. And the refs go back to review. It's like, all right, we're going to need to figure out what happened. So they went back to the previous play and saw that it started because Draymond pushed Donovan Mitchell on the fast break into the first row. Donovan was retaliating for that. So they said, hey, after we saw how everything played out, we're assessing a technical foul to Draymond Green. That's a second. He's ejected. Donovan, regular foul, whoever shoots or whatever. And the Warrior fans
gave him the
deuces
on the way out.
Warrior fan, and then the Warriors fans are always going to be outrated, not understand. That's whatever. But Steve Kerr, after the game, goes on the podium. It's like, yeah, I've never seen them assess a foul and assess something that happened plays ago to give somebody a technical. It's like, Steve, this literally happened 5 seconds before. It literally is the reason why the altercation happened. Come on, Steve Kerr. I thought the fact that they just don't understand what happened there boggles my mind.
They understand. I think they do anything to back that dude, and it's baffling.
Yeah, they are enablers.
It's
they are
confusing.
They're very much so enablers.
So Draymond, go ahead, James.
They've done that for his whole career. They've just enabled his poor behavior, and it is what it is. Like, he's a great player. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a guy who's won 4 championships, but at the same time, like the antics, like that's just me being me. Like, I don't know.
At some point, and I'd be surprised if that some point isn't like now, Adam's going to call the Warriors. Like, hey, you know that little post-show circus you do it again.
Yeah.
And me saying do it again is my way of telling you don't do it again. Because he's going to incite something one day that Adam Silver is going to have to fix. He needs to get a hold of that right now. Look, I get the way you play. I get the way you act. When you get tossed, leave the floor. You do that stuff with the crowd again, you're going to deal with me this time.
Right.
And we all know he was suspended because Adam Silver was in the Golden One Center. Adam Silver sat there with that look on his face that the cameras caught as he's walking around playing Hulkamania 1989 to the crowd.
Right.
Jumping up on folding chairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man.
And it's like, you can't do that.
Right.
Like you can't do that. And Adam Silver has to make it clear to Draymond Green, be you, play do what you do. When you get thrown out, you walk off the floor. You do that again, you're going to miss a lot more than one game.
Facts.
Yeah, I would like to see a 5 or a 10. Like, go ahead. And then you know what? Your teammates need to regulate you. And Steve Kerr needs to stop enabling and needs to regulate you. If that's how it's going to be,
Steve Kerr act like he's scared of Draymond.
Yeah, Steve ain't going to do that.
He act like he's scared of Draymond. He'll never go against anything Draymond did. Ever since Draymond almost beat him up in OKC that year, he ain't never said nothing.
So what you're saying is Steve Kerr's not going to go saddle up.
Steve will battle.
Saddle up.
Steve will battle every politician and law that he hates, but he won't say a bad thing to Draymond Green.
Yeah.
Where he'll get mad at the young kids. He'll get mad at Kuminga and Jordan Poole instead of the guy that got punched, that punched Jordan Poole.
Next time, I'm going to need you to move your face when he swings. That is your face's fault.
So then the Warriors had a back-to-back. So Draymond in the middle of the day or
Mhm.
whatever says that's his Instagram post about I ain't changing, I ain't doing nothing. Y'all need to know this. I'm here because I'm me and all this other stuff. All right, whatever. So then they play Minnesota on Sunday night. He tries that same tough guy talk.
Oh.
And Ant-Man came right back and said, Ant-Man said, I ain't the one.
That boy
And I don't have to fight you. I'm about to light your ass up.
Draymond said, "What are you gonna do about it?" And Ant-Man said, "All right,
Bullies get bullied.
all right."
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Hey man, Ant-Man, and this ain't got nothing to do with Draymond or the Ward. That's the jersey. That's the one. He done moved up to the top of it. It's too bad. It's too bad.
Timberwolves jersey.
Well, it's too bad them
Oh.
well, I'm talking about
Wow.
non-Kings or 49ers, number one. Yeah, those are always first. Debo and Fox and Monk are first.
Right.
But non-Kings 49ers,
Where's
he
Tatum?
didn't move ahead of Tatum.
Wow.
Ant-Man, that's my dog, man.
Okay.
Ant-Man, my dog. That boy is bad.
Yeah, he's
Minnesota's
nasty.
balling right now.
Yeah, they're playing really
And
well.
he looking like he ready to make a move. Did you see that clip where he was talking about he said he want to play the Warriors? Draymond always talking trash.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the clip where they asked Steve Kerr about? So Anthony Edwards did a workout for the Warriors because they had the number 2 pick, right? They had where they drafted Weissman. They did a workout with Anthony, and it was during COVID times. And afterwards, Steve Kerr went down and said, "Hey, like I'm gonna need you to actually, like, you gotta play harder. I need to see if you can work out harder than what you just did. So whatever you just did, I need you to like crank it up because that's not good enough for the NBA." And they went back and Ant-Man did his thing. And then actually after he got drafted, Anthony Edwards told this story about Steve Kerr telling him that and how much it meant to him that he actually stepped up and said, "Hey, what you're doing isn't okay." And so that's the crazy thing about like that whole entire draft process. Like Anthony Edwards was like everyone was off of him. Like, oh no, he's not serious. He's not ready. He doesn't take this whole job serious. He wants to joke around about he should be in the NFL and all these things, but like he's not a serious player. And now he's like taken a lot of that stuff to heart and he's really become like this incredible player. So and he credited Steve Kerr for being the guy that stepped up and said something to him. And that's not the first time I've heard stories like that in the NBA. But certainly with Anthony Edwards, like everything during the draft process that I heard was no one would touch him. They're like, "Oh no, not at number 1, not at number 2." Like that's a really risky proposition. And then, Minnesota does take him number 1, but it was almost like because they had to. And, the talent's there. And sure enough, he's figured it out. So
I said this yesterday. You'll get this. You know who Anthony Edwards reminds me of? Jace Carson. I was watching that all Saturday. That's Swagger, by the way. And he's, he got all the moves. And then I watched Anthony Edwards. I was like, that's Jace Carson grown up. That's the real life Jace Carson right there.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And it's tough.
I want to get to the Kings. Can we do two things? I don't know which one of these to say first. So Tyrese Maxey went for 50. And there was that just bizarre and unfortunate story involving Kelly Oubre.
Wild.
Who was involved in a hit and run. I guess he was a pedestrian. He was walking. He was hit. And by all accounts, he was hit pretty forcefully in the front, like in like his chest, like he was hit straight on, and wound up being in the hospital. I think he has some broken ribs. He's out of the hospital. He's obviously on the mend, on the comeback. But just a really incredible story. And then of course Maxey goes for 50, dedicates it to to Kelly Oubre, and we saw some of the Golden State Warriors. I think Steph Curry specifically talking about Kelly Oubre, but there's so many different stories all in that one game. You got the 76ers winning again.
Man.
The Pacers just scoring 1 billion points in wins or losses. Tyrese had 17 assists, and it's there's a couple of teams. I'll mention one more. I was wrong about the Philadelphia 76ers.
I was definitely wrong about the Sixers.
I think I was wrong about the Dallas Mavericks too.
I'm not 100% sold yet,
I got you,
but they
but it's
play
not
well.
looking good. It's not looking good because if
Luka's
that's
going
Kyrie
crazy.
and Luka,
Oof.
man,
Ooh.
that's problematic.
Tough.
Tyrese Maxey's a baller.
Oh yeah,
Nah,
Tyrese is
he
nasty.
can go.
Yeah.
He can go. I kind of slept on Max. I knew he was a good ball player, but not like
Yeah.
this. He's phenomenal. In Indiana, I love the way they play on the offensive end. They take
They're the
not-
Kings, but like way worse.
Way worse.
Way
They take not
worse.
playing defense to a whole new level. I mean, they give it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they're a fun team to watch. They do a lot of scoring. Tyrese is phenomenal.
yeah.
He's balling. That I think I saw some kind of stat. I forgot. I'll butcher it, but something about 20 points, 15 assists or something like that. No turnovers.
Tyrese.
Tyrese, yeah, he did. I don't know if he did it yesterday or earlier in the week. Only him and Chris Paul have ever done that multiple times in NBA history.
Okay,
Like crazy. Like what he's doing, he's
I
legit.
think he did
gonna
that
be-
earlier this year, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
Yeah. What he's doing this year, I mean, he's going to be 20, 24 and 12, 13 assists. Like he's going to have a phenomenal game. You called it earlier in the season. You said he's leading the league in assists. I mean, it's going to be a landslide.
Yeah, it probably will be. Yeah, it's just a question of how many games are the Pacers going to win like this, and how long can they keep it up? Is this what we saw last year from the Sacramento Kings, or is it what we saw when Dave Yeager was the coach of the Sacramento Kings?
That's a good question.
James seems to have a selection on that one. This is the Dave Yeager version, which even Dave Yeager, this isn't sustainable. This isn't good. It's going to get us by now, but this isn't going to work long term.
No, I don't think so. Like this is a really fun, but maybe 2 years from now it works. Like when Benedict Mathurin grows up and
I
they
don't know if that's gonna happen.
Yeah, Benedict Mathurin is.
Well, we'll see.
He's literally Buddy Hield 2.0. They got two Buddy Hields on that team. They really do. They got the starting Buddy Hield and the off the bench Buddy Hield.
That's a lot of buddies.
Oh man,
that's a lot of buddies.
That's a lot of shots.
I think
Yeah.
Aaron Neesmith got a little bit of buddy in him too, to be
Oh
honest with you.
man, well, God,
Well, see.
And they're shooting
He's
so well
listening.
from three.
that's a lot. That's too many.
They're,
That's too
they're
many.
6th in the league in 3-point attempts at 40.6. They're 2nd in the league in percentage at 38.9.
Mm.
Wow.
They're
Yeah.
averaging 126 a game. They're giving up 123.
Yeah.
That's way too
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's way too much. 123. How much did the Kings give up last year?
Not 123.
They were 120 and like 116 or so.
118, I'm gonna guess.
118, okay.
Well,
I'll look.
yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll look.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. I was watching that game on Sunday on the second TV, and that defense was just non-existent.
Kings gave up 118.1 last year.
Mm.
What did you say they're giving up
120.7.
right now?
123, Indiana.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
oh.
So yeah, they're going. I bet after last night though, Rick Carlisle, because you know how he is, he probably had a little come to Jesus meeting there. Like, yo, we can't keep doing this. We can score, but we can't keep playing.
The
defense.
Pacers are averaging the most points in the league, and they're giving up it's not even the most.
Washington's the most, huh?
Oh,
Yeah,
well, Washington just
they're-
doesn't care.
They're tied for the third most, which is wild because you look down at these records: 3-7 San Antonio, 2-7 Washington, 3-6 Charlotte,
Mm,
and then there's Indiana, 6-4,
mm.
giving up 123.1 points per game.
Oof. Yeah, like Rick Carlisle is one of the best in-game coaches in the NBA. He's a phenomenal coach.
Mm.
To have his team, he had to have consulted with Dave Yeager about this. Like, what do you do here? And Dave says, you just run them and run them. Like the entire training camp is you literally put Buddy out in front of the entire group and say, Buddy, run. Because that dude can run all day long and just go.
Mhm.
Nobody gets to stop until Buddy falls. Everyone's got to follow him. And you just run. And I don't know, like that's a mess because it's really, I mean, that's what Mike Brown's fighting right now. How do you fix when that's all you are? Like when you're only an offensive team, how do you become something better that can go further and further and further in the playoffs? And to fix it, it's like watching Steve Carell get his chest waxed in the 40-year-old virgin. It's like it's just painful to watch,
Yeah.
painful for everybody involved. And because it is, and Mike Brown's just fighting it the whole time. He wants to celebrate this that they're winning again,
Mhm.
and he wants to sell, but his team just is not playing that well. They're so bad offensively still that you're just sitting back like, man, this is an epic battle it's a battle of wills.
Mm.
Did you ever hear that scene was real?
Is it?
Yeah, that they like he was like, well, I just the best reaction I can give you is my genuine reaction. And it's like, are you sure you want to do that? And so that was a shoot.
Wow.
Yeah, that could be an urban myth, but like I feel like I
That looked
read
real.
Steve Carell talking about that scene was real.
It was spectacular. Either way,
it's the most memorable scene. I'm trying to think if there's any like really bizarre. It's probably the most memorable.
Is it
scene of that
too
movie.
much to say a legendary scene?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's what everybody remembers from that movie.
Yeah.
Good movie.
It's like
too,
Buddy
but that
Hill
was the
playing
movie.
basketball. Is watching.
There's some other lines in that movie that.
Oh yeah, they get some run. Yeah,
So-
they get some run.
So real quick, we'll shift it to Kings right now because you talked about Mike Brown and this, trying to figure out the master formula to have these guys play defense and score at the pace they were last year. I talked about earlier Kevin Huerter, and I'm probably sounding like a broken record, but I have loved the way Kevin Huerter has played since that preseason game where he got benched. He has been a coach's dream, a teammate's dream. He has played so hard. He has played everywhere on the floor, rebounding, defending, being a playmaker, and even when the shot's not falling, continuing to shoot. Hopefully, it looks like the shot may have came back. It's caught up again. We'll see in the next couple of games, but he had a really good game on Wednesday, a damn good game on Friday with the shot. And I talked to Damian earlier, and I said, as much as I didn't like it, I said that was the wrong thing to do in the preseason. There is an argument that can be made and probably should be made that Mike Brown, the way he handled that, has made Kevin Huerter a better player because he forced him to kind of look outside of maybe just scoring and understand that if you don't use all the skills and all the knowledge that you have, you can't play. And to his credit, Kevin Huerter has responded as good as you would ever want anybody to do it. Does Mike Brown get credit for possibly making him a better player with the way he handled that situation?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm glad you're saying this because when I say anything about Kevin Huerter, everyone just says it's because he's my son. So
met James' son on Friday. One of them.
Yeah.
One of his sons on Friday.
That's my big boy. Yeah. So when I look at the way that this is played out, Mike really did like tightrope walk this thing. And we can't forget that there was a moment for like a week and a half where we were discussing whether or not they ruined Kevin Huerter and whether he would actually come out the other side like this. And I think what we're seeing is a player who has gone through like the 9 levels of hell to come out the other side, and he's starting to play well, and he's starting to show. I'd say we thought that Kevin Huerter had capped out last season. Like, okay, look, he's a 12 point per game guy for his whole career. He comes to Sacramento. He's a 15.3 point per game guy. And that kind of looked like, okay, that might be where he could sit for like 4 or 5 years, but that's probably it. All of a sudden, Kevin Huerter is playing at a different pace than he ever has. And I know like last season, he was really good for the Kings. And I think people forgot about that because he had such a bad playoff run. But you even hear people, oh, he couldn't shoot after the All-Star break. It's like, oh, except for the month of March where he shot like 49% from 3. You just forget it because he had such a bad finish to the year. So I think what we're seeing now is a player that is showing that he might have a higher ceiling than you thought he did. That maybe it can be 17. Maybe he can get to 18 points a game. The pace that he's playing with within the offense is spectacular. And I would say it's the last 3 games. Like, it was the Houston game where they're getting stomped. There was one player who stood out in the starters that was playing hard. It was Kevin Herter. Not that everyone wasn't playing hard, but that was finding success. Then we see it the next game against Portland, and it's even better.
Mhm.
And he started doing the 2-man game with Sabonis, where he missed the 2 layups at the rim to start the game, which probably cost Sabonis his triple double. But we saw like sort of the next level of it in the OKC game, where Herter is, again coming off a screen at the top of the free throw line and racing around the screen, and Sabonis is finding him on the other side for a wide open look inside. And then the next move is that they're going to have to send somebody to shut that off, right? And then it's going to open that corner up for Harrison Barnes, who's going to be standing there waiting for Sabonis to fire the skip pass. So, like, this is the layers to this offense that can be there. And I don't know what this weird path that we've taken to get to where we are today, but maybe it does help. Maybe it will help Kevin Herter long term. He's playing, better defensively. He's rebounding like spectacularly. I mean, he's like, I think the 3rd leading rebounder on the team after Sabonis and Keegan Murray. Like, these are things that you look at him and you go, okay, I get this. This all makes sense.
Mhm.
And I think what it does, it also frees you up for him to start playing more and more small forward. Because if he's going to start rebounding like a 6'7" player, then you can go handle more responsibilities at the 3.
Well, that opens up some more questions, but let's put a exclamation point on one of them. The thought of Kevin Herter not starting at the 2 positions, that's over, right?
Oh, that's over.
That's done.
Yeah, I don't even know. That won't ever be brought up again. I don't think
I didn't think so.
for the next 3 years. As long as Kevin Herter's under contract and in Sacramento, I don't think that discussion is going to be brought up all that much.
Well, there is another discussion about Harrison Barnes, and Harrison was just kind of empty on Friday night.
Mhm.
He's had a couple of games. He played. He played well. I think 12-4, 12-5. Can't remember which one versus Portland. And he, like everybody else, was invisible. The Monday game in Houston. We were debating earlier. This is kind of what Harrison is. He had that big first game against Utah, and then it's just kind of up and down, single digits, low double digits, single digits, low double digits. It's just kind of what he is. Does Kevin Herter playing the way that he's playing, of course, with Keegan, Malik is playing phenomenal. Are we going to see more of what we saw on Friday and Harrison potentially not in at the end of games? Because I think there are some people who are frustrated with Harrison on the defensive end as well. We focus a lot on the offensive end, but he's had some interesting moments on the defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up the Portland game, and it was him who Jeremy Grant scored most of those 38 points on. So, I mean, he took turns scoring on other people as well, but it was something like 6 of 8 from the field against Harrison Barnes. So, I mean, that's a problem. Look, I want to see what Harrison Barnes looks like again with De'Aaron Fox. And I think that, like, we can see right now that Harrison Barnes is struggling, and it's not that he's struggling to shoot the ball. I mean, he's shooting almost 48% from the field. He's shooting 40.5 from 3. It said he's not part of anything. And I at some point, I have to wonder if that's by design, if the Kevin Herter situation that then became the Keegan Murray situation hasn't taken away from Harrison Barnes. And so by trying to get first Kevin Herter going, which was a huge issue, and then watching like Keegan Murray fall out of the boat, and you're sitting there trying to, drag him back in the boat. And you just keep feeding him, trying to get him going, that this whole time Harrison Barnes isn't just sitting there in the corner going, man, I'm literally just standing here. Like, are you guys ever going to pass it to me? Because it's not just that, like, his scoring numbers down, right? Like, realistically, he shot 47.3% from the field last year. This year is at 47.8. He shot 37.4 from 3. This year is at 40.5. It's not that he's not shooting the ball well. It's that he's getting 1.2 shots less per game. He's getting even less opportunities to drive the ball. He's getting even fewer opportunities where he can act as a distributor because he's only getting the ball every couple of minutes. And so what we're seeing, I don't really think it's that Harrison Barnes is like, maybe he's not playing well on the defensive end, especially against Jeremy Grant, but his usage is all the way down to 13.7. And this is a guy who sat at 19 for his career. He's just not involved in the, and he's not a guy that can like go over and just like take the ball and say, okay, like I'm going to bring it up for 5 possessions in a row. So you have to have someone else actively get him involved in the offense because that's their offense. They don't use him in the 2-man game. And I think that's where I go back to the Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray situation where they're using those two in the 2-man game. And then they're using Malik Monk in the 2-man game when they go to the bench. But Harrison is just like, when is it going to be his time? If they were just to shift and put Kevin Huerter in the corner and let Harrison Barnes come out and run 4 or 5, pick and roll with Sabonis, he'd be up at 14, 15 points a game like that quick. It would be super simple. They're just not doing it right now. And so I don't know if that's a function of the offense. I don't know. It can also be a function of the fact that De'Aaron Fox isn't there to get the paint touches. So the defense isn't collapsing. He's not getting the spray 3. There could be a lot of reasons why it's happening, but
Could
like
be a function of the pecking order too, couldn't it be?
yeah, and I think that might be what it comes down to. It might be that we always knew that there would come a point where you start transitioning some of Harrison Barnes' shots over to the other guys. And then the other thing I'll point out is
that the way Malik's playing. Like if Malik and Harrison are in there together, Malik has been a primary scorer when he's on the floor, especially with De'Aaron out.
Yeah, and I would say this too. Like it's one thing when you know that every game you're going to get like 11 or 12 shots, right? And then you take a step back and now you're getting, you're not getting 11 or 12 shots. Now you're getting 9 or 10. And now all of a sudden he's down to like 8 shots, right? Well, 8 shots over 32 minutes, he's losing a minute, but 4 shots. And that's tough because now how do you expect him to stay in a rhythm? How do you expect him to be part of everything when he's not touching the ball at all? I mean, the dude, he's averaging 1 assist a game. Like 3 years ago, he's at 3.6. You can watch his assist numbers dropping as they're using him more and more and more as just a catch and shoot weapon in the corner. And so I kind of feel for a guy like Harrison who, we're just heaping on him. Everyone is saying, "Oh, what's wrong with Harrison?" The question again, is he washed? You keep hearing it. And it's like, well, maybe it's just a function of what's happening with the team. And again, maybe because he's in the right corner and Sasha Vezenkov, when he comes in, is playing in the left corner. Maybe that left corner is a hotter spot for him because that's Sabonis turns to one side and he's left-handed and he finds the guy in the corner. It can be something as simple as that they're just like within the system, things are easier on one side of the court than the other. And Harrison Barnes just happens to be on the other side of the court.
Do you think Harrison's struggling defensively?
I think he struggled against,
because that was a great
Jeremy
breakdown
Grant.
of the offensive end.
Yeah,
Right.
against Jeremy Grant, he struggled against Jeremy Grant. Whether he struggled in every game, I don't know. I haven't been, like breaking down and studying what he's doing on the offensive end. I can tell you that the basic offensive rating and defensive rating on Basketball Reference for Harrison Barnes, he's a 127 offensive rating and a 117 defensive rating. He's a plus 10.
So and if memory serves me correctly, there was a lot of discussion about Harrison's defense last year, and you pulled out some numbers late in the season that says, yeah, these fly in the face of what you might think about Harrison Barnes on the defensive end. He's actually playing pretty well.
Yeah, 2 years ago, it was bad. He was in the bottom 12% of the league. Last year, he moved right back into like, I don't know, like 70th percentile in the league. And that's perfectly fine for a guy who plays 30-something minutes a game. So, yeah, he was much, much better defensively last year. But, like, that's what you need from him. You need him to be stable, and you need him to hit shots when he does get them. And it's really difficult to, like, hit him hard and put a bunch of blame on him when, you look at his shots and he shot 16 shots in the opener, and then it's 5, 9, 8, 7, 6, 8, 8, like, and his minutes aren't going down. Like a lot of the time, he's playing 35 minutes. He shoots 8 shots. He's not bringing the ball up. Somebody has to find him. Somebody has to go set the screen for him and get him more shots if that's what you want him to do. So
what that tells me, and you broke it down, excellent. But all that tells me is if you're not shooting the ball, you're not impactful, and that's not a good thing. Like that's not a good. You're not always going to get the ball. You're not always going to get shot attempts. Shots not always going to fall.
okay,
So you're telling me if you're not scoring, you're not impactful on these games.
but I'm going to disagree because the fact that he is Harrison Barnes that shoots like 39% from his career, they still stand by him. They still defend him. Where if you swapped him out for Kessler Edwards, that's not the case anymore. And so while he's not getting up the shots, they still have to defend him as if he is. And that's because he's a career 39% shooter. And people fear that if you leave him open, he's going to hit every single one of them. Where if you have Keon Ellis over there, even if you have Sasha Vezenkov, they might leave Sasha way before they'll leave Harrison until Sasha proves that he can beat you. Now, he might do that. But for right now, you still have to game plan for Harrison Barnes being in the corner because the he's still shooting 40.5.
To me, that's not good enough. I'd ask for more from Harrison Barnes and just be somebody they got to respect. Like you got to get a rebound. You got to get active hands on the defensive end if you're not scoring. Like it's not like, and this is kind of what happens. We could talk about it when we come back. But I feel like people, and you could tell me, the coaches that they treat Harrison with kid gloves. Like, that's just Harrison, he's a veteran or whatever. Like they wouldn't threat his playing time the way they did Kevin Huerter. He wouldn't talk to Harrison the way he talked to Malik. And Harrison's not, like, to just say like, oh, he's doing his job because he's out there because they got a game plan for him. That's not good enough.
So we'll continue this conversation about Harrison Barnes, and then I want to talk about Keegan Murray too, James, and what we're seeing in the evolution of Keegan Murray's offensive game. James Ham with us here as we get ready for the Kings and the Cavs tonight at the Golden One Center here with Dealing with KC on Sacramento Sports Leader ESPN 1320.
No, I'm good. I'm stuffed. It was. I almost brought you guys half a French dip, but then I did the stupid thing and I ate the whole thing.
I don't think I ever had French dip.
You've never had a French dip? Wow.
Oh man, did you enjoy football yesterday? You get to just sit up and watch a bunch of football yesterday.
Yeah, I started to not feel good in the middle of the day, and then I bounced back. I don't know what the deal was, but yeah, we were building some bookshelves in our game room while we were watching football, and then all of a sudden I didn't feel great, and then I by the end of the evening I'm like, oh, I think I'm all right. Really strange.
BP Butler, go ahead and tell me what our expectations for Harrison are. And before I say anything, I want to hear what you say. Up in arms about a fifth option.
I mean, that's what you have to ask yourself. Is he the fifth option? And I think here's the problem. There's a follow-up question to that. If he is the fifth option, which he has never been, can you find a fifth option that plays better defense, has a longer wingspan, does all that stuff? Now, again, what you can't have is the fall off where a guy no longer, is impactful at all. But we're not there with Harrison Barnes, like where he's not impactful. I mean, he's won you by himself pretty much one game this season, where he set the standard so early against Utah in the first game of the season. But you can't have him like disappear for a long stretch.
And that's all I'm saying is they talk about fifth option and scoring and all this other stuff. I mean, that's cool. But like I said, the shots aren't always going to be there. I don't like if the shot's not there, that nothing else happens. Kevin Herter is a perfect example. His shot was not falling. He couldn't throw it in the ocean. He found another way to be effective and contribute out there on the floor. So my shot's not falling. Let me hustle on the defensive end. Let me go get 6-7 boards. Harrison, I mean, I'm sure there's some type of schematic way with where he's at on the floor, where he's just maybe not in position, but he's not getting the ball. All right, let me get 6 boards tonight. Let me get 3 boards in this half, 3 boards in this half. I'm gonna do something to be impactful other than waiting for the ball to come around.
Yeah.
And I think he has that ability, man. He absolutely does. And I just don't understand.
Well, here, like looking at his stats for this season, his defensive dashboard. I know this doesn't seem this way, but it might be because you see it so big against a guy like Jeremy Grant, and then I don't even know who he was defending on OKC, but they had plenty of guys who did not play very well outside of Shea. Overall on the season, players are shooting 48% against Harrison Barnes, against 47.4 is their standard. So he's only a 0.6 in the negative differential. Now, from the 3-point line, he's given up 6% higher than league average, but 2 points, he's negative 0.9. So less than 6 feet, it's tough. Less than 10 feet, it's tough. But greater than 15 feet, he's doing a good job. And so, like that's what the stats say as of right now. Why does this only have 7 games? Yeah, I'm not sure why it only has 7 games.
What's their record, 4-4?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4-4.
Yeah. Should have an 8th game. He hasn't missed a game. But, we have to look at the stats sometimes and say, are we being too hypercritical of who he is right now? And maybe.
How much of a problem is it for the Kings too that he's not playing well, I guess, right now? Like how much of like problem is it actually?
I think it was a huge problem against Houston. But because you needed someone else to step up. But I also, in those situations, I want to see Mike Brown and his staff run 5 or 6 plays for the guy. Like if you have a trouble and you need someone to step up, then switch it up. Again, drop Keegan Murray in the corner, drop Kevin Herter in the corner, bring Harrison out to that higher position, and let them start working the offense that way. Let Harrison get in the 2-man game with Domantas Sabonis. Let him find some success. And, maybe they do that, maybe they don't. But for right now, like Kevin Herter, his passing has been phenomenal. Some of the roll cuts he's hitting to Sabonis are spectacular. Like he's not just rebounding better or shooting the ball better. It's the speed and pace which he's playing within the offense, within the half court is awesome. But then it's that he's not just being selfish and, going to the rim every single time by himself. We're seeing the drop-offs to Sabonis that are really good. Problem is they now need to involve the other guy in the corner. So whether it's the far corner, whether it's the close corner, they need to start involving those guys more.
And just as they think about doing that, here comes the franchise.
Final stretch of the show here. The Insiders, brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. here. Of course, our insider, James Ham, with us. I want you guys to pick up where we left off right there before the commercial break. James Casey saying, Harrison's got to contribute something, whether the offense is running through him or whatever the case may be. Like he's got to find a way to contribute, be more active, and be more involved.
Yeah, they need him to be more involved. And you know what? I'd say this too. Like if you're a coach, there comes a point where it has to be on you too. You need to make sure that it's not just the same 2 or 3 guys running the same sets every single time, and the other guys, if the Kings are getting good shots, we're okay with Kevin Huerter hitting a floater. We're okay with Kevin Huerter going to the rim. We're okay with Domantas Sabonis pulling up from 18 if it's a wide open shot. We're okay with Domantas Sabonis bull rushing a guy and knocking him under the basket and scoring. But for each of those opportunities, there has to be some opportunities for the guys on the side. And I know that, Sabonis is doing a great job of distributing the ball, 9 assists one game, 13 the next. But he needs to make sure that it's not in the same way that Brock Purdy was distributing the ball in the first 6 weeks of the season, where he's only hitting 4 receivers. He's only hitting 4 people. So anyone else who's not Debo or McCaffrey or Kittle or Ayuk, you're completely froze out of the offense. And then when Ayuk goes out, you don't really have another option because you haven't been hitting that other guy. And so they need to figure out a way to make sure that everybody is eating as much as possible. And I'm not saying that they're trying to avoid Harrison Barnes or anything, but he needs to be more vocal. He needs to go ask for a couple of plays. He needs to get himself going. And he also, the big thing for him, he has to have the ball in his hands at least some of the time. Like a guy with a usage rate of less than 14, that means he never has the ball in his hands. So he's not only is he not creating for himself, he's not even getting to a point where he can create for somebody else, right? And that's a problem. I mean, not everyone can be Tyrese Halliburton, who has a crazy 24 usage rate, but a assist percentage at 50%. Not everybody is that guy, but they need to understand that get him and get Harrison Barnes involved when you can, because he's a guy. He's one of the few guys on this team that can actually get to the free throw line, can actually slow a game down within the game and give you a break without having to call a timeout and stop, momentum one way or another. And he needs to have the ball in his hands at least a couple of times.
And the thing about it with Harrison is I can feel however I feel, James, Damian, callers, whatever the case may be. But the thing that we don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe you do, James, is he doing what the coaching staff is asking him? Because if they're happy with how he's playing, it's all that really matters. Do you think they're fine with what they're getting from Harrison?
I think they are. I mean, I think we've even heard Sabonis get asked about this, about hey, why is it that Harrison Barnes scored 33 points in the opener and then he doesn't get any shots in the second game? And his response was look, that's just the flow of this offense. We're going where the offense leads us. We're not doing anything intentional to freeze a guy out or anything. We're just doing what the offense dictates. But again, you can make some structural changes. You can, even if it's a player going, hey, why don't you swap out and I'll take the corner for 3 plays. They have the right to do that. No one has to run. There's 4 spots on the floor they have to run to. But whoever gets to those spots first gets to those spots. Mm-hmm. And it could have something to do with that. Maybe it's that Harrison isn't the guy getting the rebound. And so he's leaking out first, and he has to go further up the court into the corner, where Kevin Huerter's going and getting, he had 9 rebounds the other night. Keegan Murray, 11 rebounds. So maybe those guys are getting the ball, are getting the rebounds, and the other guys are running down court already. And so they're already in the corners, and that's why we aren't seeing that next layer where those guys are getting back involved in the offense. But whatever it is,
what the answer to that is? Go get a rebound.
Go get a rebound.
You be in the spot.
Well, yeah, if you want 3 more possessions, go get 3 offensive rebounds. You want, 2 more rebounds. Harrison Barnes could go get 2 offensive rebounds. We saw him with a really nice rebound in the game the other night where he ran to a ball, but it was one of very few that you remember. So
rebounding, I think, is one of the things that's really standing out about Keegan Murray's game. And I've mentioned a couple of times today, the evolution of Keegan Murray, the hopes, wishes, thoughts, and prayers that everyone had for what they wanted Keegan Murray's game to be. I think we're starting to see it. Mm-hmm. Keegan Murray attacking the basket, Keegan Murray getting rebounds. You talked about Casey, Kevin Herter being challenged by Mike Brown to be better and to do things better. Keegan Murray got that same challenge last year when talking about rebounds, and we see what he's doing now on the glass. And he's not a catch and shoot shooter anymore. He's a guy who can create. He's a guy who will attack the basket. We're seeing him dunk now. Obviously, the Chet Holmgren dunk the other night was huge for him. It was huge for the Golden One Center. And James, it feels like everything we kind of hoped and wished that we would see from Keegan Murray, we're starting to see happen here very early in this season.
Yeah, I think if the shots were falling,
yeah,
we would already be talking about a guy averaging 20 a game.
And I think everyone is fine. Of course, everyone wants the shot to fall, but they're being taken. Yeah. And I think that's a really important component to this. He's not, curling back up and going in his shell. He's not looking to distribute like he is. He had the second most shot attempts to Kevin Herter the other night. He shot more than Domantas Sabonis did. And I think those are some of the things certainly Mike Brown is looking for, is he will never miss the opportunity to tell us he'll bench Keegan Murray for not taking shots.
Yeah. No, I mean, he definitely would love to tell us that it loves to tell us that all the time. Yeah, like I haven't done the math, but Keegan's averaging 14.4 shots per game. If he was shooting 45.3% from the field, if he was shooting 41.1% from three, I believe his 13.8 points per game would be way higher. He's just struggling to get his shot to fall early, and he's looked off. I think the game against Portland was really tough for him because not only did he not play well, but he didn't shoot the ball well, but he didn't shoot the ball well in front of his brother, against his brother. He got his shot blocked by his brother, which now I guess, is a big running joke, like behind the scenes. Everyone's having a good time with him about his brother blocking a shot. But I think that there is this, you could see him fighting through it in the OKC game. And then finally he gets the big dunk and you feel like, again, the weight lifted off the kid, and then the three ball starts falling. And I think he's a guy that, like, he's such an introvert, but I think like everyone else, he's fallen in love with the Keegan Murray chant and he wants to hear it. And when he doesn't hear it, when he hears the groan, I think he's wearing it. And you see him, like, it gets harder and harder and harder to hit a shot the deeper you get into a game, because you felt the intensity of the crowd and the letdown of the crowd so many times already that, like, it's starting to feel like a big old heavy wet blanket on you. And so he gets the first couple of shots to go down. I think he'll be fine. And I think we're starting to see him come out of this weird funk that he was in early in the season where everything was rushed and he looked like a rookie who hadn't adjusted to the speed of the game. And we can call it drifting. We can call it like moving too much on a shot or whatever. He's moving too fast. Like, his brain and his body aren't together. And that's what we're seeing on the court. And once he starts to slow down a little bit and get his confidence, I think we're going to see him absolutely blossom like we thought we would at the beginning of the year.
I can't wait to see it, man. I think that that performance in the second half on Friday really could weight things up for him, and I'm anxious to see where it goes. The Golden One Center crowd can be, I don't know if you say awoke, either way. If number 5 comes out on the court tonight, you updated it a little bit. There's a change in the status for Fox. He was doubtful. He's been moved up to questionable now.
He is now questionable.
Thank God for Shams.
Yeah. Well, it's questionable.
That was sarcasm.
To play today or tomorrow or Wednesday.
Well, that's right. He'll return at some point for the Sacramento Kings, is what we learned today.
As Kyle Shannon would say, aren't we all questionable?
Yes. Well, we might not even be here, or we might not be here Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, like, first of all, shout out to I wasn't at practice yesterday. I wasn't feeling well. And it was football Sunday, and I'd already worked like 14 days straight. So I wasn't going in, but shout out to Sean Cunningham, Brennan Nunez, and Frank Carcelli, and all of the reporters that showed up on a Sunday and actually did the work and We're there to videotape De'Aaron Fox on the court. We're there to talk to everybody there at the practice. And then we're there at shoot around this morning and watched him go through shoot around and watched him do the job. Shout out to those guys because they're the ones who were all over this story long before a phone call was made to Shams.
That's facts. That's facts. And then
Listen,
Shams
like-
still tweeted nothing. He still just tweeted words. De'Aaron might be back tonight or tomorrow. He might have returned last Saturday against Houston.
Or
but,
10 days ago.
Well, that didn't happen either.
Yeah.
Keep going, Shams. You got this, buddy. You got this.
No, I mean, Shams is a great reporter. But like, look, at some point.
Yeah, stay out of our business. Though.
Yeah.
You're getting on my nerves.
Well, that, I mean,
Stay out of
like,
our
Well,
business.
whoever's got the story,
Shams,
like,
he was probably told to report that.
well, yeah,
Stay out of our business.
but give the people who were there and did the work and actually had put it out, 20 minutes before, like that's who is on this story.
Absolutely.
I meant to ask this earlier and didn't, but hell, we here. Kings back to 500. How's everybody feeling? I know you're on top of the world because your 49ers snapped the 3-game losing streak yesterday. You're saying they're back. They're back to that Super Bowl team. They're back to everything we expected them to be. So where are we at with the Kings? Kings have won a couple in a row. They're back to 500. You got a tough matchup against Cleveland, who, help me, they beat twice last year.
Yeah.
How we feeling?
They're not back for sure. A win tonight would be great. I think when this homestand started, I said, man, give me 2-1. Well, they've already secured that. You find a way to go 3-0, winning games against OKC and against Cleveland, whether Fox plays or not, especially if Fox doesn't play.
That's huge.
You're back to having your head above water and being able to kind of say that was just a rough spot in the season. Now we're about to really play the way we do. I look at these good teams as being able to do things like Houston's doing, like Philly's doing. It's not necessarily if you lose 3 or 4 in a row or in a week or something like that. The good teams are able to, out of nowhere, win 6 out of 7.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota
Win 6
1
out of
and
7.
2. Yep.
Win 10 of 11, 10 of 12, something like that. And that's kind of what I'm looking for this team, to get on a little bit of run, maybe not right now, but at some point, get on some type of stretch where they win 10 or 12 or something like that.
Yeah, I would caution everybody that, like, when you lose a star level player and they go out for 5 games, but this isn't like games 45 through 50 where you're such a refined team that has like a system in place and you're playing a certain way and all that stuff, and then you remove De'Aaron Fox out. We're talking about a team who's 3 games into a season. You pull out your star, and like, what are you going to look like? And let's be honest, it was ugly. Like, the first game was okay, you fought. The second game, the reality that you didn't have Fox there was trouble in Houston, right? You start to come out of it a little bit, but I would just remind people that this team is still in the growth stage of the season, and losing a player like De'Aaron Fox early is very difficult. And it's not like this is how they went through training camp. It's not like they're the Memphis Grizzlies who had an entire training camp to understand that this is what life looks like without Ja, and you got to be better. This is a team that had planned on having a guy there, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. So if Fox were to come back against the Cavs tonight and they lose, that's because they have to adjust again to Fox being a primary guy, to Fox being back out on the court. It's not like you're just going to take his minutes and swap him out for somebody else and have him like jump right back up to 31 points a game. And here we go. We're rolling again. He's injured and he's coming back from injury. And that means that, he hasn't been on the practice court nearly as much as he would be. He hasn't been in the gym nearly as much as he would be. So there could be a dip here before they start building again. So it's also possible that Fox comes out and scores 35 and just says, shut up,
I'm
James.
going with that. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah. But I mean, it's totally possible. And just goes, hey, look, this is who we are. And now look, Kevin and Keegan and Domas are already going, and we're rolling now because this is who we are. So it's possible.
You think he plays tonight?
Yeah. Anytime someone goes through a shoot around and goes through the entire shoot around and went through a practice yesterday, If he would have gone through practice yesterday and then showed up this morning and didn't go through shoot around, that would have been like, okay, red flag. He went through practice yesterday and he showed up this morning and he's sore.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he was able to make it through shoot around as well and was out there, that tells me that there's a very high likelihood he's going to play. And you don't usually move a guy up from doubtful to questionable unless there's a real possibility.
I feel like we didn't give Malik Monk his just due today, talking about Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis' triple-double. Hell, that triple-double barely got run on this show. Talking about the other two guys. Malik, if he played the final game with De'Aaron Fox out on Friday, he was extraordinary. Through the wins, through the losses. Like, Malik has really been – we started to see his playmaking skills last year, and I feel like they've been ramped up even more this year. He's at like 14 and some change. He's averaging over 5 assists per game, and he is, man, it really feels like De'Aaron, Domas, all of the hope for Keegan, all of the drama around Kevin Huerter. It feels like Malik Monk is the heartbeat of the squad.
Yeah, I mean, for him to step up with the assists the way he did, he hasn't shot the ball particularly well this season.
Yeah,
he's below 40% as a shooter, but I think it's because he has a lot more pressure on him. And so for him to, I'm going to point out two things. Not only is he, he's averaging 5.6 assists per game, which is right below Sabonis and Fox where they're at for the season. And the 14.4 points is more than he's ever scored. But for him to be able to do this while really having to shoulder so much of the weight, and in the middle of this stretch here, people forget they moved away from JaVale McGee and went to Alex Len. For him to make that adjustment on the fly, to go from a true rim runner, throw it up anywhere near the rim and the guy's going to go get it, to a much more like find Alex Len in the right spot on the floor and let him move in to finish. Like, he's Alex Len is not an alley-oop guy at all. And Malik has made that adjustment so quickly that, again, I think hat tip to Malik for being able to figure out what it is his team needs, get to the free throw line more often, do sort of the dirty work while still being flashy and still being himself. Yeah, I think he's done a really good job.
What day, because I can't remember which one it was, what day did you and Mike meet at Juniors and decide to take JaVale out of the lineup?
Yeah.
I can't remember what day that was.
I'm not sure. I'm not telling, but Alex Len has played really well.
He has.
Man.
Well, he has.
Good for Alex Len.
But he absolutely has. And Casey pointed out he hadn't had a bad game in a really, really long time. I mean, in comparison to what his role is, like, he hasn't had a game in a really. I've really enjoyed when JaVale was on the floor. Come on, Ham.
Well, and then I'll real quick give a shout out to JaVale. I think Matt George was talking about on Locked On, and I don't know if he's just, I don't want to say making it up or assuming, but he said Mike talked to JaVale and said, we're going to go this way for a little bit. And JaVale was, all right, so whatever the team needs, man, I'm here. And that's a shout out to him for having that mentality. That's what this team is built on.
And shout out. Sorry, Hammer, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you never know how those conversations really go. But Mike portrayed it in a good light in postgame the other night. And like, this is a team. It is like any player
that felt like a dig at JaVale. Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
There
was
not
no reason for that. You know what it is. That's why you're laughing the way that you are.
Flat out coach speak, and you guys know it. That was flat out coach speak.
Wow.
That was like, yeah, man. I talked to Buddy Hield about coming off the bench, and Buddy's all for it. Go ahead, Bogey. You go ahead and run on out there. Like, oh, Buddy's excited about coming off the bench tonight. Back to you.
James Ham with a tall cold glass of Haterade hits the air tomorrow at 10 a.m. along with Kyle Matson. The Insiders brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Make sure that you're tapped in, YouTube, Odyssey app, whatever your preference is. Of course, follow James tonight through the Kings game. We appreciate you so much for being with us.